So I just want to thank everyone here at the Dharma Collective for all that you do to hold down sanity in a increasingly complex world. And when I do my prayers every day, I include all of you and all of your efforts and, wish you so much sustenance and longevity, and just so appreciate you. And thank you for having me here. I love coming. And my name is Isa Gucciardi, and I think people know me, right? Yeah. I'm the director of the foundation of the Sacred Stream, a school for consciousness studies in Berkeley, and I've been teaching for a while. So that's my introduction. Okay. Let's do something that I like to do with all the circles at the Sacred Stream, which is to open circle. So I'll say a phrase and you can say it after me. The sun is a circle.
Sun is a circle.
The moon is a circle.
The moon is a circle.
The earth is a circle.
The earth is a circle.
The drum is a circle.
The drum is a circle.
We are a circle within a circle.
We are a circle within a circle.
Thank you, everyone. So this evening, we are continuing our exploration of the intersection between Buddhism and shamanism, which we started earlier this year. And we have looked at different aspects of the two traditions that have a remarkable amount of similarities and some differences. We've looked at the concepts of initiation. We've looked at all kinds of different ways in which the intersection is intersecting. And this evening, I'm talking about a subject which may seem surprising to Buddhists and non sequitur to plant medicine devotees, and that is the intersection between plant medicine and Buddhism. And I've been teaching. It's so funny because I was asked to teach on this subject by Onaya, which is a big school that trains plant medicine facilitators in London. And they called me out of the blue and they asked, will you teach on Buddhism and psychedelics? And I'm like, okay. Because I'm really more about plant medicine than psychedelics in general. So I'll be talking about plant medicine. The reason they found me is because I also teach classes in shamanic practice and have developed a lot of different methods of bringing shamanic practice into the modern time. And so the ancient wisdom, the really powerful ways of healing that are demonstrated by plants and often overlooked by people who don't understand the depth of shamanic practice, which is something I'd love to talk about later if we have time. So I think that's why they decided that I was good to talk about this. And I thought, let me write an article about that. And let me, so it's kind of become something that I'm doing and talking about now. And I usually don't do like straight ahead reading when I'm teaching, and I'm going to try not to do that here, but I've got a little bit of an article that I wrote where I was pretty coherent, relatively coherent. So I'll just kind of dip in and out of the article as we're talking about this intersection between plant medicine and Buddhism. And I feel like I need to, before I talk about plant medicine, I need to talk about the world of plants generally in shamanic practice. Because one of the things that happens with plant medicine in the modern time, I've watched this grow. When I'm 70 now. So, and I started working with plants with the Native American church when I was in my teens. So I've watched this boom happen, for years. It was very underground, and then suddenly, boom, ayahuasca was everywhere. And one of the things that I see again and again, and I was invited to a place up in Marin that focuses on all types of psychedelics to give a talk. And I saw, I mean, these people are very dedicated practitioners and holding circles and, they're wonderful people. But I saw there, even among this group of facilitators, that they really were not keyed in to the fact that plant medicine comes out of a much larger shamanic practice of herbal medicine and as part of one of the many dynamic and catalytic aspects of shamanic practice is the work with plants for healing on all types of levels. And I've had the good fortune to study with many expert herbalists, and I've been, working with plants as medicine beyond the psychedelics, again, since my mid-teens. So I think I just want to say all hail plants, let's not just take this thing that comes from plants and just consume it and forget about the deep, deep roots of this practice and the way in which plants have been teaching us and healing us and sheltering us and feeding us and helping us in so many ways. And the plant medicine is really just one more beautiful gift that the plants offer us. And I just really want to put that in context as we're talking about plant medicine. And of course, you all know more about Buddhism here, right, than shamanism, I think. But of course, Buddhism has also roots in Vedic thought, which Vedic thought is very much informed by Soma, this elixir that has also in recent years, I've been practicing Buddhism for as long as I've been practicing shamanism, and nobody ever said the word Soma a long time ago, let me tell you. But now, boy, that is a popular word you hear everywhere, and for good reason, because there are plants that have informed many spiritual traditions, and I'm drawn to the oracle at Delphi. I'm drawn to the temples of Asclepius. I'm in ancient Greek thought and practice. Sorry, very distracted by the plants this evening. But many spiritual traditions, so much of the theory, there is some understanding and theory and talk about the way in which all of Western civilization is based on Socrates and company attending the psychedelic, basically psychedelic encounters with ergot at Delphi and Asclepius and the different temples of Asclepius, and that their thinking came from those encounters. And so again, I think we need to really honor the way in which plants have informed many spiritual traditions, potentially including even Buddhism. Or definitely including Buddhism if you understand Buddhism as a rising out of Vedic practice. So I'll stop talking about plants now, I think, but not for long. So the intersection of Buddhism and psychedelics is a meeting point between two profound modalities of exploring the nature of reality. Though they arise from different traditions, these approaches both aim at unveiling deeper truths about the self, the mind, and the universe. By examining this intersection, we can uncover a rich dialogue of ancient wisdom and contemporary experience. Buddhism provides a systematic framework for understanding suffering and the means to transcendent. The teachings of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path offer a guide to liberation from suffering from the unsatisfactoriness inherent in existence that is often referred to as dukkha. Through meditation and ethical living, practitioners aim to cultivate wisdom, compassion, and an experiential understanding of impermanence and interdependence. Central to Buddhist philosophy is the concept of emptiness, which posits that phenomena lack inherent existence. I know this is like very unsettling when you first encounter it, but it becomes more settling the further you go into it. And it doesn't suggest that things do not exist, but rather that their existence is contingent upon causes, conditions, and other perspectives. It is a profound realization that dissolves dualities, opening the practitioner to a deeper sense of connection with all that is. And this is really important, this issue of emptiness, because as you'll see later, this is something that is often central to people's experience of plant medicine, which is the thing that often drives them into my office. I'm also a depth hypnosis practitioner, therapist, that specializes in spiritual emergencies. By the way, I forgot to say that. So I get a lot of people coming out of plant medicine circles that are like, things don't exist the way that I thought they did. I don't exist the way I thought I did. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. Don't worry, we got it. So this emptiness is pretty important because it is something that people encounter within the plant medicine experience without recognizing that they're encountering it. And so that's why Buddhism is one of the really great reasons why the intersection between Buddhism and plant medicine is not a bad idea, because Buddhism provides some context. The practice of meditation provides a deliberate and disciplined approach to these insights. And with plant medicine, it's usually like, right? So over time, practitioners stabilize their minds and cultivate clarity, creating the conditions for transformative experience. However, this path requires dedication, and it requires patience, a gradual unfolding of understanding. Psychedelics, on the other hand, often thrust individuals into these states of interconnectedness and transcendence with astonishing speed. And substances like psilocybin and ayahuasca, which is a plant combination that you find throughout the Amazon, can dissolve the ego, dismantling the boundaries of self and other. And users frequently report feelings of profound unity, unconditional love, and even glimpses of what could be called the divine. These states are strikingly similar to those described by Buddhist practitioners in the moments of deep meditation or in the experience of enlightenment, or what people think might be enlightenment. Right? We never are sure, never totally sure we're there, right? Yeah, we think we're having an enlightened experience, but there could always be a trap door there where you missed something. But we're working on that, right? Sorry, another drink. I recall, so I'm going to draw from my practice a little bit here. I recall one individual who, during a psilocybin journey, encountered what he described. He was not a Buddhist practitioner. He described the clear light of wisdom. I'm like, oh, okay, we have an intersection here. The description echoed the Tibetan concept of Buddha nature, that innate clarity of compassion at the heart of all beings. However, after the effects of the substance had faded, he struggled to integrate the experience into his daily life. This underscores a critical distinction between these two paths. While psychedelics can provide a glimpse of profound truth, they do not inherently offer the tools to embody or sustain it. I often tell my clients, it's like it opened a window And now it's your job to get that window open again and keep it open, right? That's, that's the task. And Buddhist practice really helps with that. Buddhism and plant medicine are not inherently opposed, but can complement one another when approached with respect and care. Psychedelics can serve as a catalyst, breaking down mental structures and offering a visceral experience of Buddhist principles such as interdependence and impermanence. Buddhism, in turn, provides a framework to understand and integrate these insights, ensuring that they lead to lasting transformation rather than a fleeting euphoria or confusion. One of the most compelling areas of overlap is the phenomenon of ego dissolution, which is commonly reported in psychedelic experience and central to the goal in Buddhist practice. You don't tell people that the first day they come in, right? You don't tell them that. But it is actually the goal. Ego dissolution involves a loosening or an even complete disappearance of a sense of a separate self. For a meditator, this might occur after years of disciplined practice. For a psychedelic user, it might happen within an hour of ingesting the substance. Yet, while the psychedelic experience can catalyze this state, it does not necessarily teach the user how to navigate it. In my work with individuals exploring the intersection of these modalities, I have often seen the transformative potential of combining the two. One participant, a seasoned meditator, described her first ayahuasca experience, her first ayahuasca ceremony, as a reunion with everything that I had been meditating toward but had never fully grasped. However, she emphasized that without her meditation practice, the intensity of the experience might have overwhelmed her. And indeed, it does overwhelm people, which is why we need people like me sitting in a chair, and why we need Buddhism and other forms of understanding, and Stan Groff, who we're getting ready to talk about in just a little bit. So for those considering this intersection, preparation and integration are essential. Plant medicine is not a shortcut to enlightenment, nor is it inherently transformative. Without careful intention, psychedelics can lead to disorientation, and they can even exacerbate suffering. The grounding practices of Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness, and ethical conduct offer the tools to ensure that the insights gained from psychedelics are deeply understood and woven into the fabric of everyday life. Moreover, it's crucial to approach psychedelics with respect and for their cultural and historical roots. Many of these substances have been used for millennia in shamanic and spiritual traditions, and their use carries a responsibility to honor those lineages and to honor the plants. The intersection of Buddhism and psychedelics is not without its challenges, but holds immense potential for those willing to navigate with care. Psychedelics can provide a glimpse of the truths that Buddhism has articulated for millennia, while Buddhism offers tools to stabilize and embody those truths. Together, they form a dynamic partnership, a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern exploration, leading us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the nature of reality. By engaging with both paths thoughtfully, we honor the wisdom they each carry and unlock the potential for profound transformation. So that's my sort of more formal statement. And I don't know if anyone has any questions at this point before I start talking about some of Stan Groff's contributions here. Well, one question that I often get from people that I'm going to bring forward here is I have a lot of Buddhist practitioners who contact me, and they're in a real state of quandary, because they, as a Buddhist practitioner, you're not supposed to engage with things that are inebriating, right? And as far as I'm concerned, plant medicines are not really inebriating. They are something that bring you closer to yourself. And I think inebriation is something that brings you away from yourself. And so I just want to offer that, as long as we're working with the plants and with that intentionality, we're working with the plants. We're not like out in a rave doing, a little bit of LSD and then topping it off with a little bit of ketamine and then, hey, let's do a psilocybin topper, and we're not doing that, we are, serious. I'm talking about the serious engagement with the plants and understanding the plants as the teachers that they are and approaching them with the same respect that we would approach a Buddhist teacher, right? And so that deserves it, right? You don't have to disrespect anyone, but I think all plants deserve respect. I'm not sure all Buddhist teachers. So, as we know with the history of this particular place, right? So, yes.
Do you have any personal experience with psychedelics? And if so, is there a story that you want to I'm just curious.
No.
If you want to.
I've never done any plant medicine. Yes, no, I've done quite a bit of plant medicine. Yes, I have. I know I had this like, this young girl come up to me and she goes, "Have you even done plant medicine?" I was doing plant medicine before you were even a thought, girly. Yes, I have. I've done a lot of different plant medicine. I haven't worked with other substances because I'm not drawn to them. Yeah, but I do speak from experience. And I have the great privilege of having helped so many people who have been through been through the process of preparing to go into the experience and preparing and integrating later. So I've been exposed to thousands and thousands of cases of people working with plant medicine. And so I feel like I know it pretty well, I mean, plant medicine is a big rubric. There's different types of plants and different types of experiences that they provide. But anyway, I can talk forever about that. But anyway. Any other questions? So I want to talk about Stan Grof because I think that he is one of those, another one of those underpinnings to the experience that is happening now, this explosion of work with psychedelics. And he was offering methods for understanding the psychedelic experience long before any, well, I was born, but probably you guys weren't born. He was, he worked with LSD in the 50s and, as a medical doctor, really was very thorough in all of his experiments. And he was a Czech. He was at the center of psychedelic research behind the Iron Curtain in the 50s and the 60s. And his early research in the clinical area of psychedelic substances were conducted at the Psychiatric Research Institute in Prague, where he was the principal investigator of a program that systematically explored the heuristic and therapeutic potential of LSD and other psychedelic experiences. He is one of the godfathers of transpersonal psychology. And, we need to take a moment to understand what transpersonal psychology is and how lucky we are to have him as an advocate along with Maslow and Sagioli, other great thinkers who really challenged the sort of rigidity of clinical psychology, which does not accept the idea that spirit can participate in the therapeutic process, which Carl Jung, who is probably the godfather of transpersonal psychology, absolutely rejected and saying that no therapeutic process can be successful without the participation of spirit. And I think, and we really need to understand this, because I remember when I was in school in the 70s, I wanted to major in psychology, but I couldn't, because all they wanted me to do was hurt monkeys. And they were not interested in understanding the transcendent in any way. And so that was at the beginning of the 70s. And of course, I was just in the wrong place. I was in a more, Maslow was, he was popping, and, Groff had come back to life and had developed holotropic breath. But it took me, a few years in the 70s to find them. And by that time, I had already majored in other things. Coming back, I came back to transpersonal psychology and got my PhD, 25 years later. But it truly is a major milestone that we forget. I mean, even 30 years ago, when I started developing depth hypnosis, it was, mind-body connection was like a dirty word. You weren't really allowed to talk about it. And, I worked with Michael Harner. I love Michael. And he always cautioned, don't try to bring this into the clinical setting, and I was like, I'm bringing this into the clinical setting, there's so much that can be, with shamanic practice, that can be, understood and worked with and transform people's experience. And we need to, and of course, shamanic practice is all about working with the unseen powers of nature, which in shamanism are called helping spirits. So, and I also, along the way, I got a degree in comparative religion, and, Buddhism is really a cutting edge idea. There's so much in Buddhism that is absolutely radical, and it's so important that we be able to work with the principles of Buddhism in the clinical setting as well. The idea of Buddha nature, just having that, the Buddhist psychology of wholeness that it provides, the transpersonal psychology atmosphere, is so important. So I just think, and we take it for granted now. We take a lot for granted now. There's been a long, hard fight to reclaim the flag for the participation of spirit and healing. And plant medicine has come a long way, and Buddhist psychology, influencing so many thinkers, has also come a long way in doing that. So, but Stan Grof, he developed so there was a whole thing that went down in the 60s. They found out that, people are going to become too intelligent if they keep doing psychedelics. And so we're gonna outlaw it. And so Stan came up with this method of holotropic, and his wife, Christina, came up with holotropic breath work, which is this very deep breathing into your corporeal experience. And it's out of his work that this word somatics came. And, he really kept the ball rolling in terms of the kinds of insights that can come from working in the altered state of awareness that can be attained in many different ways. Of course, in Buddhism, we attain the altered state of awareness with the different forms of meditation. And in shamanism, it's not only plants that provide that. We also work with the shamanic journey. We work with dreams. We work with visions. These are some of the things that we've explored in this series here at the Dharma Collective here. So, and he wrote extensively. He has written so many brilliant books. You must read them, and providing frameworks and alternative models of healing based on the expanded perception that arises from working beyond the conscious mind, right? And so he offered one framework, or one set of frameworks, which I really like, which I find really organizing, especially for people when they're coming out of plant medicine's experience trying to understand what the heck just happened. So he offered 4 different major frameworks for understanding transcendent experience. The first is transpersonal experience, that experience of the divine, that experience where you encounter the light, and you found God, and and you are one with it, that you find in psychedelic experience. Then psychodynamic experience, which is all of the insights that you get relationally from looking at your relationships and looking at all of the different patterns that you never saw in your relationships when you are looking at them with the new altered perspective that the plants might provide you. And of course, that experience is often very revelatory. And it can really cut through the illusions that we might maintain in relationship, especially to those closest to us, or illusions about ourselves. This is why this is one of the main reasons I have people in my office, is because they are seeing through something. They're seeing a dynamic that they had long been able to deny, and now they can no longer deny, and they don't know what to do. This psychodynamic experience can often evoke the shadow experience, both within ourselves and within others, which can be disturbing, and it can be difficult to digest information that is counter to one's previous understandings of their place in relationships that are brought forward by the plants. So we have transpersonal experience, shift in relationship with the divine, psychodynamic experience, shift in relationship with others. And then also there is this perinatal experience that is so commonly found in plant medicine work, where people wind up they don't necessarily understand that they are in utero, or they are, perinatally focused. And Groff, he, along with Fritz Perls and some of other Jung's other senior students, really felt that the perinatal and the prenatal experience is fundamental to who we are as human beings. And this is something that in depth hypnosis, the first question we ask is, do you know anything about your birth? And everyone's always surprised, why are you asking me about my birth? Because your birth is the template for your life. And so when people have, I know, it's surprising, right? And disturbing, and potentially wonderful, but but most people have being born is not easy, okay? Even if you've got, a doula and a bathtub and, low light and, no anesthesiologist breathing down your neck, it's still hard, And yes, I have given birth. So I know. And yes, I have been born. So I do know about these things. So being able to identify perinatal experience as perinatal experience within a plant medicine experience is pretty important. And again, these understandings can have a profound effect, and why it's so important to have integration counseling when you're working with these substances. And then there's the abstract and aesthetic experiences. I love that. It's such a European phrase, abstract and aesthetic experience. You can hear him translating from Czech there. And the information that is held in this is the information that is held in the geometric patterns that people often see or experience within, certain types of plants provide more of this type of experience than other types of plants. But, this experience of these geometric forms and patterns is a language. It's actually a language that can be learned and whose messages can be translated into words. Or these forms can act as doorways into other dimensions and other experience. And much like a mantra, right? Much like a mandala and a mantra, It's very similar. You can enter into the domain of the deity by focusing with great intentionality and one-pointedness of focus. And you can, with using sound and the forms of the mandala to enter into this other dimension, the same way that you can with the forms that appear in plant medicine. Walk right through, right? It is important to have some grounding in conceptual understanding of these kinds of experiences, and to be able, and if you're going to be able to translate and integrate them into your everyday life. And so we have the transpersonal experience, the psychodynamic experience, the perinatal experience, and the abstract and aesthetic experience. And I'd like to offer you some key Buddhist concepts that help, which form the Buddhist understandings about the nature of reality, that can be very helpful for holding psychedelic experience defined in these ways. And I'd like to demonstrate how the relationship, by understanding these concepts in Buddhism, these understandings are highlighted and able to be recognized, because so much happens in plant medicine for people because they don't have any kind of conceptual framework that shamanism provides or that Buddhism provides. And so providing context from the Buddhist perspective here, I'm just doing this to show you the cross dissemination that's possible, so that individuals can hold and integrate experience from psychedelics more readily. So let's put the two frameworks together. Transpersonal experience. Okay, what do we have in transpersonal experience in Buddhism? Let me think. The experience of Buddha nature, that, excuse me, that experience of the clear light, that experience of the ground luminosity, that place of wisdom and compassion that is at the heart of all experience, and which within humans is just distilled as Buddha nature. And I'll take questions later. And also we have the concept of interdependence. This, this affront that people have when they realize that they aren't separate, and that they're actually dependent and connected to other things, Here we have this whole concept of interdependence that is there, ready for us to understand and consider from a more slowed down place with Buddhism. And of course, we have the experience of compassion. And many people have very difficult experiences with plant medicine and psychedelics, but often, many times, people always, not always, many people feel that depth of compassion that the plants bring to the experience. And, this is something that is often the first time that people encounter that level of compassion is through the plants. And it's something that is cultivated and really the focus of Buddhist practice. So here we have the transpersonal experience, well supported by the context of Buddha nature, interdependence, and compassion, just to name a few. And then we have the psychodynamic experience supported by karma, that wonderful word we all love, wonderful concept we are all so happy that we're engaged in. And in case you don't know what karma is, it's the consequences of actions. And it's the patterns that emerge out of the way in which you take action based on a previous consequence, or the kinds of thoughts that you engage in based on a previous consequence. And then, I can talk about karma for a long time, so I can come back to that. And then we have Dharma, what is our path through life? What is the teaching that we must learn in this lifetime? And interdependence, of course, is part of the psychodynamic experience. And interdependence, of course, meaning that we are all connected, and whether we like it or not. And we do come to love it. And once we understand it, and I'm not thinking that it's going to dissolve us and make us go away, right? And so psychodynamic experience in plant medicine is well supported by the concepts of karma, dharma, and interdependence, just to name a few Buddhist key principles that support that. And then we have the perinatal experience, which is supported by the Buddhist idea of reincarnation, right? And further the telescoping out of karma, moving across lifetimes, the experience of our karmic patterns that are a function of our actions and thoughts in one lifetime that are driving our experience in the current lifetime, unless we can get a handle on it and take refuge as quick as we can. So the perinatal experience is supported by the Buddhist concepts of reincarnation and karma. And then we have abstract and aesthetic experience, which of course is supported by impermanence, emptiness, and interdependence in Buddhism, which we've already explored. And so these definitions of impermanence, emptiness, and interdependence challenge our understanding of the fabric of our lives and reality in the same way that these abstract and aesthetic experiences do. So there's more in common between plant medicine and Buddhism than you might think. And both demonstrate a unitary philosophy regarding the nature of reality, which is in contrast with the Western dualistic scientific and religious approaches, right? They both break through all of that dualism. Hallelujah. And sorry. And of course, within shamanic practice, the spiritual and material was never split in the first place. Nor was it ever in Buddhist philosophy. I mean, there are some Buddhist schools that kind of get going pretty far, trying to abandon duality in some pretty extreme ways. But if you look at Buddhism, it is a science as well as a religion. It is a philosophy as well as a form of spirituality, right? There's not that dualistic. There never was that dualistic split. So the exploration of this intersection can provide us with a grounded, expansive, and uniquely personal path to self-transformation and understanding that can be translated to a holistic and all-encompassing model for understanding of the nature of reality. So that's, I'm like, sometimes I look at my writing and I'm like, my writing's not too bad, it's a lot better sometimes than my talking, I can become very colloquial when I'm talking, So anyway, you had a question?
Oh, some of us here last night. Some of us were here last night, and Eve Ekman was teaching on love essence. So I think that would be in the psychodynamic.
Or compassion, in the compassion, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much. This is brilliant, the way you've organized this.
Well, thank you.
And I don't know if it would be appropriate, but something you just spoke to reminded me of the unborn heart. Does that fall in?
Well, that which was not born and that which does not die, right? Yeah, the nature of consciousness, right? Right. Any other questions? Yeah, there's behind you. And I have a meditation we're going to do.
So I have one experience, that's the perinatal experience during a plant medicine ceremony. And before you talked about the framework, I was like, how do I make of it? But if I recollect, it was an experience that at one point I feel like I'm giving a birth, but I think it's more like I'm in a womb. Can I use that experience as a template of rebirth? Say if I die after Bardo, that's like the experience. I mean, like I can never experience when I'm living, but
I would stay with the actual experience of the birthing. Like, I would stay with that rather than trying to translate it into something else. I would stay with the actual experience of what that was like, both being born and giving birth at the same time, and really look at that intersection, that place where being born and giving birth are there right together. Because I think that that's probably where the plant was focusing you and really understanding the process of birthing from the two perspectives. So I would really focus there rather than try to take that. I mean, there's so much right there. There's so much in that moment to understand. And I would really, if you were, one of the things that I do when I'm working with people to help integrate is I teach them how to work with the shamanic journey. And it's a class that I teach constantly. You can take it on demand at Sacred Stream. And establish a relationship with a guide who is going to help you understand your plant medicine experience and work with the guide to understand that further. Like, I would really recommend that kind of exploration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this talk. It's very interesting. And one of the questions I had was around how Buddhism kind of separates, into 7 different realms, right? So we have like hell realm, hungry ghost, animal, human, demigod, and then God realm.
The lokas, yeah.
And, this might just be my lack of understanding of the Buddhist perspective, but, the animal realm is the realm of stupidity, right? Or that's at least how I've heard it.
Ignorance.
Described.
Yeah.
And ignorance.
Which is not exactly stupidity.
And so I guess my question to you is, in a lot of, I'd say in the majority of my dreams and plant medicine experiences, they revolve around animals and animals being guides and teachers. And I've always kind of had a hard time in my Buddhist practice, seeing the animals as ignorant or stupid when I've had very kind of felt experiences of them being, for lack of a better word, like more enlightened. Or so if you have any insight.
I have a lot to say about that. It's a big issue with me too. I like with the 6 lokas. So, the 6 lokas, of course, for those, I think many of you know this, they are realms of experience or states of mind that are characterized by, like for instance, you have the hell beings characterized by anger, the hell realm characterized by anger, the hungry ghost realm characterized by greed, because they're beings that have small mouths and huge bellies, and so they can never get enough. So there's this consuming aspect. And then the realm of the animals is characterized by ignorance, the realm of the demigods characterized by jealousy, the realm of the gods by pride, and the realm of the humans, which is this uneasy balance of all of them. You can at any time plunge into any of them. But I just want to put that in perspective. But that idea of I had the same issue because as a shamanic practitioner with so much experience with the the animal spirits of that act as guides. The way that I've understood this is that and that's why I said it's not stupidity, it's ignorance. It's that the main thing about animals that is such a drag for them is that they allow their will to be overtaken by humans, right? They don't have the ability to resist their will being taken away from them, especially as they become domesticated. And for me, I think that's the piece that and there are many people that also are weak-willed and allow themselves to be overtaken by will of others, right? So that's when I think about ignorance. That's what I think about. I don't think about it as stupidity. And so this is, and I think does that help you? Does that help you?
I think I'll have to think
Think about it,
reflect
yeah.
on that personally. I think, yeah, I mean, just from a gut reaction, it's just I see them like on par with, maybe Dakini or
Oh,
like
yeah, they're
other.
more
and,
intelligent than we are,
and so
absolutely.
the idea that there will,
No, but look at the domestic animals. Look at the way domestic animals, or look at the way that we overpower all of the farm animals. And, look at what they don't, it's
yeah, I
it's
think
this awful thing that happens.
I have I guess, one experience that I don't know refutes or goes in line with what you were saying, but in one of my plat journeys, it was around how like Mother Nature actually allowed us to domesticate animals because that was the only way that we'd remain connected with Mother Nature. Is
Oh,
if,
that's so interesting.
but I'm not saying that to like
Yeah,
refute what
yeah,
you're saying, but it's just, it seems like, the question always comes back that the intelligence is greater than, the lessons are coming from the animals. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's still
Yeah.
open, but
I agree. I mean, I think also we have to think about Buddhism, and the definitions of Buddhism being colored by a culture, and and acculturation. And, I'm with you 100% that animals are not stupid, and they're not even, I mean, it's a drag when you lose your ability to be able to direct your fate, right? And I think that that's what they're trying to point to, is that realm of beings that have lost the ability to direct their fate. And I think they're using animals as an example of it because it's within the cultures in which Buddhism arose, that was, something that was happening. So I would probably take it less literally, and because we all know that animals are so sentient and so wise and, have so much to teach us in ordinary reality and non-ordinary reality. And so I kind of take it as I take it as they're trying to point to this concept of beings who have lost their ability to direct their own will, which is a terrible state,
thank you.
So actually, going off of that question, I was thinking about sort of these transpersonal symbols that can come up. And for me, like perhaps animals or deities or actual symbols can be used as messengers of some sort.
Yes.
And I think you've talked about it before, where the higher self may be sending messages to the self. And that's something that I've come up in my dreams too, and wondering if you could comment on that. I don't quite have a question, truthfully, but I guess I'm trying to understand that process. And actually, I do have a question.
Excellent.
So these transpersonal symbols, right? And maybe they could be Buddhas that come to you in meditation. There's lots of symbols. Can these be messages, let's say, that come from outside the self? Or are there no messengers that are outside the self?
It's a really good question. So, and it actually, you're right at the intersection of Buddhism and shamanism, because in shamanism, everything is like the spirits, like the helping spirits, are considered to be other than the self. They're considered to be outside of the self, and they're coming to the self, and they are assisting the practitioner in doing whatever the practitioner is doing, right? But within Buddhism, everything is a function of your mind. So everything is arising internally. So, and so there are two different ways of looking at reality, right? So, but with, that is a big difference between the two systems.
And objectively, let's say, is there a way we can like
Yeah. We can try to-
Objectively.
We can try to get to objectivity. Yeah.
Like, because again, the higher self, the self with a big S, right? Not this self here. Can we know if it's like, oh, this self is directing me, or if some other being or energy, let's say, is trying to direct us? Do you see what I'm trying to say?
So is the experience of the higher self an experience of an external agent directing us? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Or is it just the self directing us?
Again, you're looking at two different conceptual possibilities. But one thing that I find that I've defined, but one thing that I find that really breaks through that or gives yet another perspective where both can be true is, so we have the experience in our everyday life of our conscious mind. And this is the place where we're meeting, where there's this consensus reality, where things are logical, things are empirical, things are provable, right? And and things that are not logical or empirical are generally filtered out to kind of create the reality that we want. Unfortunately, people are getting so disorganized that's not even happening, which, that used to be a problem. And now it's like, I wish that people had more filter so they could see and understand and have some kind of conceptual framework with which to approach reality, because there's so much disinformation now. It's so hard for people to have any kind of coherency in their conscious mind realities, right? But ideally, you have the conscious mind reality that has that coherency based on logic, empiricism, provability, right? So, and that's a really helpful way of being, right? But it filters out other ways of being that would disorganize that. And those other ways of being can be considered the larger aspects of the self. And on an energetic level, if you look at the experience of conscious mind reality as being of a certain, or material reality being of a certain vibratory frequency, and then you go into, say, dreams, which there's less, they're less material, but they're still material forms that are recognizable. And so that is an energetic experience that is a bit more fine or refined, right? And then you go into the experience within mind states or emotional states that don't have form to them. And they can go into any level of frequency, and the lower realms of, like the six lokas, most people stay within those frequencies. But then there's frequencies that are beyond that, which are finer, that defined, it's the place where the clear light begins to dawn, where there's a finer vibratory experience that takes a particular type of focus and concentration to be able to maintain connection with. And so then at that point, and that's where you're encountering guides that are compassionate in nature and shamanism. That's where you're encountering deities that hold particular types of experience, like the green taras, hold the experience of helping and assisting and aiding. And then you have, the medicine Buddha that has the frequency that is focused on the blue ray of healing. And then and then you're into the rays with the deities. And then you've got Avalokiteshvara, which is holding down the clear light within that, and then you've got all the different colors of taras that are holding down all the different frequencies of energy, which all have different qualities of intelligence within them. And then those deities or those mandalas or those abstract experiences are the distillation of that vibratory frequency, right? And so you can say, the Tara is here helping me, or you can say that I'm tuning into this frequency where there is assistance that's possible, right? Or you can say, there is this larger part of myself that knows how to help and how to assist me in anything that I do. Right?
A lot of perspectives,
Yeah.
depending on how you look at it.
Exactly.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so I guess that's some level of objectivity, but it's also subjective. But I mean, it's an objective description of subjective experience. I mean, you can, and all subjective experience within that can be understood, as a thought. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and do a meditation. So I wanted to focus on this particular meditation because it's an easy step into emptiness, which is again one of the primary experiences that people have in, it's one of the places that people are chasing in Buddhism, and it's one of the things that people get confronted with plant medicine quite a bit. This kind of the sense of things not being as we thought they were, and myself not being as I thought I was. I'm not as solid as I thought I was. I'm not as independent as I thought I was. I'm not as separate as I thought I was. And so that can be affronting. I mean, that can be seriously, I mean, people go into real distress with that. Both within, coming out of Buddhist meditation, retreats and coming out of plant medicine experience. It's not something, it's no joke when it happens to you. It's no joke. It's very scary to have to, that first experience of letting go of the solidness of the self. So I want to do this meditation to help with that, to help step into that. And it's a meditation on interdependence, because when, as I said earlier, with emptiness, it's not that things don't exist. It's just that they only exist in relationship to everything else. And if you can make friends with interdependence and interconnectedness, which the plants are absolute masters at revealing to us, and which deep meditative states are very masterful in revealing to us. If we can learn how to step into the bathwater there with interdependence, and recognize that if we were to let go of our sense of self as being solid and separate, that there is actually this net, Indra's net, catching you, this interdependence catching you, and that you are part of you don't dissolve into nothingness, you dissolve into a greater whole. And so I wanted to just offer this simple meditation to try to bring that thought home. So just allowing yourself to get settled, noticing all the places where the surface under you meets the different parts of your body. And as you do, just noticing where your breath is. Noticing as you breathe in where your breath goes, and noticing as you breathe out where your breath goes. Just letting yourself rest in your breath for a little while. And just allowing yourself to begin to notice the way in which your breath can be like a bridge between your outer world and your inner world. And just following your breath into your inner world, into that place where everything that you've ever known or felt or sensed or imagined is recorded. And as you come into this place, consider choosing an hour of your day today that you would like to focus on. And as you focus on all of the events of the day, of that hour today, allow yourself to consider all of the people that you may have thought about or that you may have encountered just within your own experience. Then thinking about the clothes that you were wearing during that hour. And think about all of the processes that had to happen for those clothes to wind up on your body. Perhaps the plants that had to be grown, the soil that they grew in, the experience of the plants, of the sun, water. The people who grew the plants, the people who harvested the plants. Or if you were wearing synthetic clothing, all of the people who had to figure out the chemical configuration that created those synthetic fibers. And then the factories where the fibers were woven into cloth. The people who created the machines and all of the resources they used to create the machines. And then the actual making of the cloth, the tailoring of the cloth, all of the people that either dealt with machines to create that tailoring, or perhaps you had a handmade garment on. And the packaging of those clothes, the shipping, all the people who were involved with the packing, the shipping, all of the resources that fueled the trucks or buses or planes or boats that brought the clothes to the place where you bought them. And the people that you interacted with, perhaps in the store, people that you might have interacted with online to buy them. And you've only focused now on the clothes and all of the things that had to go into the clothes that you were wearing within that hour. And if you had a meal, take a moment and consider what you ate or drank, and all of the people and processes that were involved in getting that food to you. And then look at the actual activity that you did within that hour. You might have played the piano, and then you're in connection with the mind stream of the composer. You might have read a book, you're in connection with the mind stream of the author. You might have given a lecture and transmitted the experience of your mind to others. Look at all the exchanges that happened on a mental and emotional level within that hour through your activities, through what you were, quote, doing. And just allowing yourself to consider all of the different experiences in that hour that you encountered, and follow each of those experiences to their origins before they became your experience. And then coming back to your breath. Whenever you're ready, just returning to your breath, watching your breath move in and move out. Consider the possibility that the breath that you're breathing, the air that you're breathing, has been breathed by many other beings. And generated by many other beings. And just allowing yourself to experience this level of connectedness that you've been exploring here, this sense of interdependence, and feeling yourself supported within it and supporting it as you continue to watch your breath. And then when you're ready, just begin to follow your breath back out into the room as you exhale. Feeling the surface under you. Just taking all the time that you need to come back gently into the room. Anyone have any thoughts or questions? You know, I teach with Robert Thurman pretty frequently. And whenever whenever we're doing meditations, he always, at the end of the meditation, he'll go, ding. I could hear him saying it, sound ding. Oh, God. Sorry I did that to you, sorry. He's so funny.
I had a thought connecting my questions from earlier to the meditation, where I think my question was centered on the I in a sense, like sort of like the individual small self or big S self. But like when you see it from the perception of interdependence, it really, you know, of like what is interacting on what and how things are interacting together. It's really turns everything around.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right?
Yeah. It's also so curious how often, almost always, we get stuck in the egoic, separate consciousness when it's also so almost comically obvious how interconnected we constantly are. So
Such an important point you're making. Yeah. So maybe emptiness isn't such a bad thing. Okay, well, I want to thank you all for being here this evening, and thank you again for all you do here to keep this place running, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I know you have some announcements. I was going to make a couple of announcements about the Sacred Stream, if I could. We have a sound healing meditation on a week from Sunday at 5:30, if you'd like to come and experience the beautiful Sacred Stream Center, which is turning 100 years old this year. It's in an old Lutheran church. And we'll be working with crystal bowls, meditation, sound healing, if you'd like to come for that. It's a free by donation event. And we also have lots of other, classes. There's a class coming up that I think this Sangha might be interested in, called Worlds Beyond Death. It's a Buddhist perspective of the worlds beyond death, and a shamanic perspective of the worlds beyond death, a comparison of the two. It's very, very experiential world there. That's coming up. And we also have, of course, the shamanic journey coming up in November on hybrid live stream. And we've got lots happening at the Sacred Stream. So, and we have the drum circle that happens every equinox and every solstice. And we have a lot happening, and and it's just such a beautiful place to be. So just come over and just be in the light of the room. That's the amazing thing. So again, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and close circle, and then we'll have announcements. The sun is a circle. The moon is a circle. The earth is a circle. The drum is a circle. We are a circle within a circle. Thank you, everyone. May all beings be free.